Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Ultimate Human Experience podcast. You already know who it is. It is your girl, Rashida, aka Righteous Sun. And on today's episode, we are welcoming in special guest, Dr. Yano Kelly. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Yes, share with family and friends and those who you feel will vibe with this message. With that being said, let's get into it. Welcome. I'm so excited for this conversation. I already feel like I know you, but maybe that's just more on like a spiritual level. Like our connection feels like this conversation can be like talking to a friend and not just like a special guest. So yes, I'm welcoming you, Dr. Yano Kelly. How are you doing today?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being on your show today.
Thank you. So I love to tell the viewers sometimes like how I meet people. They already know that I do a lot of the episodes by myself because Spirit always guides me to share messages, but I've always said I can't do it by myself. And so I usually will just scroll on whether it's TikTok or Instagram, any social media platform. And if somebody catches my eye, but it's not even my eye, if it catches like my heart and my spirit, I'm like, I wish I could talk to that person. I jumped into your messages, which is, to be honest, if people know me, I'm pretty shy, but when spirit calls, I just have to just go with it. And if it's a yes, it's a yes. If it's a no, then it's to me, it's like, okay, it's not meant to be right now, but that's okay. But you responded and we had a great conversation before last week, I think it was. And I was just really excited to get into this conversation. So you can find Dr. Yano Kelly on TikTok. And I like started following maybe like 2 months ago. And I was like, oh, she's cool. And then it like your page started to blow up in a way that I was like, I love to see when people are sharing their true authentic self and then to watch the growth happen, whether it's slowly or rapidly, I get excited because I know that there's so much more to come. So can you please share with everybody who's going to be listening all about Dr. Kelly?
Absolutely. Well, it was literally all of this really was a coincidence how I really fell into, and I like to say fall into it because I really was minding my business. And one day I was in corporate America, my background was finance, and I was driving to work one day. And as I was driving to work, I just started crying hysterically. And I didn't know what was happening to me. And I pulled into the parking garage and had to immediately pull into a spot. And when I pulled into that spot, the crying, it was one of the most heaviest cries, like one of those snot nose crying. And as I was crying, my life started just like flashing before me. Mind you, I had no idea what was going on. It felt like something was being poured into me, like literally being poured into me. And then I started having these flashes of all the things that I had been through. And it was like, it was being explained, like there were different scenarios that was being explained as far as why this happened. It's like I got a proper explanation to why things have happened in my life. And I can say it didn't take long, but it seems like I was there in that moment forever in a whole nother space. And I woke up literally, stopped crying, and everything was in like HD. In that moment, my life changed drastically, which led me to who I am today as Dr. Yano Kelly. And what I do is more about helping people remember who they are. And through that, but helping them to remember who they are is through healing the soul. And I'm just getting like directly to it because there is a process, like just knowing what questions to ask, giving direct messages. And it's interesting because the way that I get messages to give to people, it's like a knowing. It's not like it's a knowing. It's like I just know what to say, and in that knowing, I'm one with that knowing. So it always amazed me when people are like, oh my gosh, how did you know what was going on in my life? And I'm like, I don't. I just get these messages and I deliver the messages. And so for me, it's like I'm just being me. But in the process of being me, I'm helping so many people. And I've just literally this week, I got to really take in while I was on live with my followers. I got to take in how many lives I have changed just through delivering messages. Because when we're being who we are, you don't realize how you're impacting people just being your authentic self. And so it's just truly an amazing journey and ride just to be alive on this planet and living, knowing that just through your living, you're impacting so many people, transforming so many lives, transforming the planet, not just lives, but alchemizing and transforming energy. It's just life is so amazing. It's so amazing. It's so amazing.
I love everything that you just said there. First, I love how much you love life because in this world, there could be many reasons why we don't love life, right? It can maybe throw
Right.
off the trajectory. But the fact that you are sharing your true, authentic self will, of course, and it is impacting others to be their true, authentic self. So now spirit is flowing through me, and a question I want to bring to you. Now, I always focus on women because I feel like as women, even if you are not a mother, we still have the nurturing, that feminine energy, that aspects of ourselves, whether we are nurturing family, friends, whatever, we're still even nurturing our own selves. We really do have that intuitiveness within us. But over time, we forget, right? Because you talked about the
Yes.
whole remembering piece. So for those people out there, you said it's a process. Can you
Mhm.
like touch on just a few of the things that you help other people through in terms of the process of them remembering themselves? Because I think when we talk about remembering ourselves, it's also remembering our innate intuitiveness that runs
Yes.
through us. But because of society and the way that the world works, we start to think like, okay, we got to trust our gut and not trust our heart. But I definitely think we're in a time right now more than ever that people are wanting to wake up. They're starting to. There's this feeling within them. And as they watch your lives, as they watch your posts, you're like helping them to unlock that key that's always been there, but it's just been laying dormant for whatever reason. So, what is the process that you would take somebody through?
Well, the first thing would be I'm a root worker, getting to the root of the issue. And that stems from identifying like what led you into whatever state you're in. So you mentioned about being loving life. So my awakening came through me hating life, me hating myself, hated being a mother, hated being a wife. I hated humans. I had a hate. Like I went into a full deep depression for 2 years. I was in a dark place. And I will never forget as I was like just hoping to die because I couldn't do it myself. And it was just the hope. Like every day I would literally wake up praying to die. But that was because I knew there was so much more to life, like just so much more to life. I just didn't know how to get to it. How I know there was more. I know there's a better way to live. I just didn't know how. And nobody around me apparently didn't know how either. So going through that depression, and I literally heard this voice that said, you have two choices. Either you can lay here and just be stuck, or you can rise up because nobody's coming to save you. And when I heard that, it threw me into a, oh my gosh, like I got to do something. And then having kids, my children, I knew that they did not deserve to be here without a mother because it was leading me into those stages. And that waking up and identifying I'm not a victim. And so what I find with a lot of my clients is the victim, is the blaming. So getting to the process of understanding that let's take accountability, that our life is where it is because of the choices. Now we can go outside of that, but I try to keep it's important to stay like when you're working on self, it's key to pull into me to yes, these people may have done these things to me and I've gone through some things myself. I was violated as a child. And so it's easy to get caught up in certain things. I was a part of abuse. I was taken out of one home, put into another home because of abuse. So I could have used that and I did. For a long time I used that. And so we use things to keep us stuck. We don't realize until we get sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I got sick and tired of being depressed. I got sick and tired of the blame. So taking someone through the process is identifying, okay, what is the one thing that's really like, what is your fear? Diving into, because it all ties back to fear. Fear of maybe just being your authentic self because you think people don't like you, fear of believing something different, knowing something different, just the fear of just being different because we have these labels of being crazy and all these different things. So for me, the process is identifying the root issue. And from the root issue, because a lot of times we hit the branches, we hit the leaves, but we never get to the root of the issue. So it's identifying the root of the issue and clearing that out. Once that is clear, and a lot of it, I can be honest, we don't realize energy transfer, how engaging with people, and you're taking on beliefs and you're taking in information that you don't have a knowing to, but you're allowing yourself to believe all these things. And it's literally like a power. So it's like getting to your truth. So the root is identifying what the issue is, and then what is your truth? What is your truth? It may sound ridiculous, crazy. Let's just get to the truth. And the truth is always in you. I always like to say, you are the truth. You knowing that you are the truth and then identifying what that truth is.
I love everything that you touched on, and I wanted to add to that as I continue to learn and grow with myself as well. You spoke that you experienced trauma as a child, and I experienced the same thing. I experienced a lot of abuse within my household. As a child, you learn to either quiet yourself because you don't want to get hurt. So the truth that you want to express out is unable to be expressed because of fear, exactly like what you said.
Yes.
And then we move through it. We think that we have moved past it. We get to adulthood and then we get into other relationships. And I've noticed that as I've gotten older, some of the things that was laid dormant because of, like you said, outside influences, family dynamics. I grew up in the 80s, so it was like children should be seen and not
Mm-hmm.
heard.
Yes.
Supposed to talk back to your parents when in actuality it's not you talking back, it's you expressing those
Resting.
emotions, those feelings, the confusion. But if you have nowhere to express that to, you lay it somewhere within the body and it sits and it festers, just like what you said, sits in that bucket, and we
Mm-hmm.
pile a whole bunch of this other stuff on it. And when it comes time for us to know who our true authentic self is, we have
We
no
don't know.
idea who we are. And then we start to question our true authentic identity. We're like, is this us? So, what could you say to people who are like, I hear what you're saying, Dr. Kelly, but at the same time, I don't even know who I am. I don't even know who my true authentic self is. And to reach some of those, the root is really tough for a lot of people because they've worked so hard to suppress the pain. And what you're saying is, and I'm learning this as well, is that you can't suppress it. It needs to be released in order to have that freedom. Or, like what you said, and so many of us out there, we go through life starting to hate life. We starting
Mm-hmm.
to hate the people around us, the relationships, our whole life, when in actuality, I'm starting to, and I would love to hear your opinion on this. You start to realize that it's not that we hate our lives. We hate what's going on in here because we never had a chance to release and express that pain freely without
Yes.
judgment.
Yeah, absolutely. You actually touched on it. It's the judgment. It's the fear of, like, if I acknowledge it, that makes it real. And the
Mm,
suffering in silence, like for me, I suffered in silence because I didn't have time. I didn't have time to address my emotions. I was a mother, I was a wife. So I didn't have time. I was everybody go to. So it's like, how can I have these issues and everybody comes to me? I have to have all the answers. And it's like I had all the answers for everybody else but myself. And realizing, though, shutting everything down. I'm fortunate to have a partner that allowed me to shut everything down to find myself. Now I realize through sharing stories, everybody doesn't have that ability to be able to shut yourself down as a mother, shut yourself down as a wife. And even just saying that, that can be frowned upon, like, how dare you shut yourself down? But when you start embarking upon self-love and you realize that this household, especially as a divine feminine, you realize that your household is ran through you, and realizing that things are haywire and they're not just in place in order because we're not in order. So you have to find that starting spot. You have to find, and for me, just the admitting that I'm not okay. Like, I am not, I'm walking around here with a mask. I am not okay. And having to sit and tell my husband that I'm not okay. I didn't know how that was going to go, but I knew I had to do it because I'm like, I can't keep going like this. I had reached my breaking point. And a lot of times we get to the point where we hit our breaking point, and everybody's breaking point is going to be different. And for me, I knew that I cannot go into a mental institute. It was getting to the point where I thought I was losing my mind, but I knew I could not go into a mental institute because that was my generational history. My dad, my grandfather, my aunts. My dad was the only male, so there was no other male. But just watching the history of my family dynamics going in and out of mental institutes, and I knew that wasn't for me. But the knowing was because the divine spirit, divine intelligence, my higher self, the God within, is like, no, you're fully equipped. So for me, I feel like it was a little difference because I did have source, God, with me, guiding me through every step. Although I wasn't completely like listening, I could hear it, but I wasn't listening because I didn't know what that was speaking to me and guiding me and telling me. So my story is a little bit different, especially when I have clients, they're just steady trying to figure it out. And I just feel like it's just been an honor that the divine, that source has always been with me from the time my earliest recollection was at the age of 12 when I was trying to unalive myself, literally with nobody home. And this loud voice said, I can't let you do this. And I looked around like, I knew I was in the house by myself, but this loud voice. And I'm like, and then I could feel like this divine intervention. It was like I was no longer in control at all. I was no longer in control of myself, and the knife being removed out of my hand. It was just a mind blowing experience. So for me, it's more about I had this divine presence that kept me from doing a lot of things and guiding me through my being silent and waking up to speaking my truth.
Thank you for sharing that piece. First, I want to say thank you for even just coming on here and sharing pieces of yourself that is very vulnerable, and it takes a lot for people to come on. Not everybody feels comfortable to share those pieces, but the more that you share it, the more you're helping others, the more that you help yourself. So I just want to take a moment to just honor you and all of the progress and the work that you have done. And you'll still have more to come, but to be in that space, to be able to acknowledge it, even in the moments
Yes.
where even for myself, when I speak certain things about my past, I still feel the pain. It just doesn't come out in the same way now. I'm more able to freely express it in a way that's like, I understand what I've been through. So I just wanted to say thank you for being able to share those pieces of yourself.
So thank you for allowing me to share it.
Appreciate that. I want to talk now about the support, because you just said, thank goodness that you have a partner who can support you. And I want to get a little bit more specific now, because I know as women, we don't share because, like you said, we become the mother. So now we have to be the people who help. And then we all forget about ourselves very quickly. The moment that baby comes out, that's it, right?
Yes.
But I also want to speak very particularly on women of color, because
Mhm.
my background is from Barbados and Guyana, and then goes further back into Africa. And to be honest, none of the women in my family spoke about their feelings. Like, we're strong women. It was always told that you don't need a man for anything. You don't, you're your own. Like, you get, and I was like, that made sense. It never made sense as a kid. And then I grew up and I met someone, and we've been working through it every time. But the biggest thing that stood out for me and what you said as well is that you expressed to your partner that you were not okay. So many women of color know deep down that they're not okay, but they
Mm-hmm.
will, it's like this thing within them that, like, if I say that I'm not okay, then that means there's something wrong with me. That means
Right.
that means I'm not capable. And I was a very sensitive kid, always have been. Like, I was the sensitive
Me too.
all of the girls. I'm the youngest, but I was the most sensitive. And I had to learn to
Mhm.
become more tough, even though I was like, that's not my personality.
Right.
It was only when I got older that I was like, no, 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 like, I'm okay with being the sensitive one because the sensitive one is very aware of her surroundings. And now I can look back and be like, oh, I found ways as a kid to like alchemize that energy or figure out what to do with it rather than getting out there and being super angry or like building that that toughness in like shoulders and everything to express to my partner that I wasn't okay. And that really came when I turned 40. And I was like, I had 3 kids and I was like, oh, okay, I feel I'm good. We're about to have number 4. I can do this. I can do this. And then I realized, Rashida, like who you thought you were at 24, 30 is different. Your emotions is coming through. I'm a really big believer that children come into your life to teach you a lesson and to allow
Mhm.
you to express what it is that has been sitting dormant. They come in as blessings and gifts. So I feel like my fourth came in to teach me to express my feelings wholly and to not be afraid of that. And through that is when I said, I'm actually not okay. And that was the first time I actually had said that out loud. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I know I need support. I know I need you to be here. So, my question then is because for so many women out there, they know they're not okay, but they actually don't even know how to ask because they don't know what they want, right?
Right.
So going to your partner or going to anybody, you say, I'm not okay. I need help. The first thing someone's going to say, well, what is it that you need help with? Right? Because I'm now in the process of always encouraging my kids to ask for help. Asking for help doesn't mean that you don't know, it
Right.
means that you need support, right? You need guidance. So what could you say to people out there that currently are like, I know that there's something wrong, and I don't even know how to ask because I don't even know what I want.
Well, you don't have to know what you want. You just need to acknowledge that you need the help. So for me, and it's a little different for me, which is why I have to gauge this because I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew that I couldn't continue the way that I was going. So most of the time when we do get to that point, it's because we are really at our breaking point and we don't want to lose it. And so that boils down to just the starting point, the starter. Like you just need that start of just acknowledging, saying it. I'm not okay. I didn't even, and for me, it wasn't like I needed anything from my husband. It was just like I needed to pull back from my duties. For
Mm,
me, it was more about pulling back from my duties because me trying to figure out what's going on with me, plus trying to solve issues with my children, trying to understand because it was causing a friction in my relationship as far as I started getting closed off, that depression setting in, and I knew that I could not fall into a deep depression. So for me, I was in and out. Yes, I was in it for 2 years, but then even when I came out of that, I would like go back and forth with that depression. Like even there were functions I couldn't even show up, things I couldn't participate in. And I just started telling people. I think it's more about you realizing and you like you gotta know that I need to say something. And it's gonna eventually become a burden and heavy on me. And I think it's just overriding that fear. It's you because the fear is there, but it's you saying, I gotta do this. Like I had to like build myself up daily, build myself up to say, I gotta tell my husband this. I have to tell, I don't know what I need. I just knew in the moment that I needed to pull back from my duties. So I think it's more about you identifying what is it, because there are some parts of you that do know. If you just sit and get to the acknowledgement of, I need to say something, I need to tell somebody something. Just that little bit, the rest is gonna come. The red, like you may, in the moment, you may think you don't know what you need, but once you say it, I think about it like champagne. When the fizz comes out, the fizz part is you saying it, just saying it. I need some help. Like I have to do something. I can't stay in this space. That's just a relief in itself. Just saying that in itself is a relief. Then you can just allow whatever is going to come after that will come after that. But just saying it, getting the strength, finding the strength just to say it.
Yeah, I appreciate that piece of finding the strength. That in itself is freedom to be able to
Yes,
say it in a way where you don't feel like you will be judged for that. I
that
think
part.
so many people out there refuse to say things because they feel a big judgment will come to them. How come you don't have it together? The truth is, we're seeing more and more that a lot of people are acknowledging that they don't have it
Live
together.
together.
And
Yes,
to be honest, like, if there's somebody out there who has it all together 24/7, like, more power to you. But we're human on this earth, and there's going to be what I believe will be down times where we don't, right? I do believe that in those moments of down times when we don't have it together, it's a point of recalibration,
yes.
pivoting back to the path that you're supposed to be on, whatever that looks like for you. Is it an opportunity for you to say, you know what, I might be misaligned right now, but I need to realign myself?
That's giving yourself grace. Like, I
Mm.
think the biggest part that I've realized, especially as a woman, is we're compassionate with our children, with our partner, with people, but we do not give ourselves that compassion and the grace and the space. When I went back over and I realized how, with people who were doing certain things, it's like, oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. But when it came to myself, I would never be like, girl, it's okay. It's okay that you're hurting. It's okay that you're suffering. It's okay that you're not up to par. It's okay that you're not who you presented yourself to be. Because it's waking up to that. Like, I realized that I presented this image of me being this strong woman. But that also came from my childhood because my mom raised us on image. The house was a mess, but when we stepped outside that door and we got in front of people, you better have it together and you better not make me look bad either. So I had that and I had to, that was the biggest thing. And I realized my entrapment within myself stemmed from when I was little because I had a mother that we had to look a certain way. We had to make her look a certain way, which means we had to be respectful. We had to make sure we didn't do certain things. So it's like when I realized in my adulthood and me suffering, I'm like, I presented an image. I've been carrying this image, being perfect because I had to be perfect when I was in the public, when I was in front of people. I had to be perfect. So you think about your partner, that's still a person. So you still carrying a mask, wearing that image of I'm a great wife, I'm a great mother, because we live in a society where you get judged if you're not. So now you're pretending until you can't pretend anymore.
With all of what you just said, every last little bit.
And I don't know if that's a cultural thing, but it
It,
happens a lot.
yeah, I don't know if that's a cultural thing either, but like literally what you said, that was my mom to a T. Our house was a hot mess, but when you go out there, you to present yourself, to dress nicely, you're representing the
Yes.
family always. And it would confuse me because I was like, what am I representing? Like, I'm going home and it's not what it appears to be, right? So
Right.
just stay quiet. Then that makes me think of like the imposter piece when we talk about
Mm.
self-love, because what are we then when we talk about self-love? It is literally to just love the self for existing. Like when we give birth to a child, we love that child, every detail down to everything, because it just exists. And then over time, society, life, all of that stuff, it feels
Mhm.
as if it kind of like strips it away a little bit when I look at
Yes.
childhood. Starts to like strip it away to the point where now it's not that I love you because it's you. It's I'm more of a people pleasing. I love you if you know what I mean. It's now not even turning into love. It's more of like praise. So there's like I'm learning there's a difference between love like self-love and also just
Hmm.
praise, especially when it comes to parents and children, right? If you
Right.
if you stay quiet, then you're considered a good child,
Right.
and that is more praise. But to us, we're looking at it more as like, oh, it's love. And
Hmm.
if I stay quiet, then that means that I'm going to be loved more, right? I'm more, but then as of course you get older, you start to think that that is the way that you're supposed to be. And in
Right.
where you want to share your piece, or all of a sudden now you're afraid of confrontation because you're thinking, well, if I speak up, will this person still love me for my true authentic voice and what I feel, rather than just praising me, like you said, because I'm being a good wife, I'm being a good mother, I'm doing whatever it might be, I'm showing up, I'm being a good daughter, whatever that might be. But in the end, we're thinking that that is love, and in actuality, that isn't.
It's not.
Then confuses people when we talk about self-love. Because right now, I feel like self-love and self-care is really big out there in any
Yes.
community. I'm really understanding that I don't think all of us out there really understand, even myself included at one point, didn't really understand what self-love was. It just, I think for me, it felt more of like, okay, I'm just loving myself. What does that feel like? How, you know what I mean? And then I started to realize, oh no, loving the self is to love all of you,
You. Yes. All the
imperfection,
things. Yes.
all the stuff, even the rate, because, as moms, we are honestly nurturers, but at the same time, I don't know if you've ever read this book. I always share this book because it's one of my favorites. I am big on psychology. It's called Women Who Run with Wolves. If you've never read that book,
I've heard of the book, but I've never read it.
get this book, please,
Okay.
because it talks about the rage that women carry. It's almost innate, right? Like
Hmm.
when you think about animals and female animals out in nature, it's very important for us to nurture our children, nurture the cubs, but it's also important for us to be able to hunt for them, to be able to do all the things that like society says we shouldn't be doing because we're just the gatherers and the men are the hunters. But like I love watching National Geographic and things like that. When I
Okay.
see a lot of these, like whether it's a female tiger or whatever, and they're out in the wild, it's all about instincts. And they really have to think on their
Mhm.
toes to be able to feed their children. And what does that look like, right? So it's like getting
Right.
the deeper piece of it that society makes women to be like, we're supposed to be dainty and this and that. And yet we really suppress a lot of that rage and anger that we have every right to, but we don't get a chance to allow that to flow through our body. And to me, then it also suppresses our creativity because if you're
Mhm.
not allowing
Yes.
all of that energy, not just the positive, but also the negative flow through you, you're not getting your whole entire self. You're only getting fragments of it
Most
because
of it.
you've been
Hmm.
able to separate what is palatable to people versus
Oh.
like, but you're just gonna get all of me, and if you like it, you like it, and if you don't, well, I don't know, there's gonna be somebody else there anyway, right? Like maybe
Right.
it's not meant for me. I don't know where I was going with that, but I just wanted to add that piece in of like the importance of women understanding that they are not just those dainty women, that we do have to get down to the bones of it, right? That's when they talk
Yes.
about like the what is it, the maiden and the crone, like getting deep into that, especially as we get older. Oh, it's the maiden, mother, crone piece. So
Okay.
we go as a young women, we're the maiden, so we're always trying to please, and then we get into that
Right.
mothering aspect as we get into our 30s and our 40s. And by the
Hmm.
time you hit 50, closer to 50 now, you're the crone, you're very wise, and you at the end of the day, you don't give a crap what anybody says about you because
Not,
hey,
not at all.
I want to be, I'm not to say I want to be the crone, but I want to embody some of what that comes with that, and not to do it at such a later part in life because I have three girls and I want to encourage them to be open to expressing themselves as freely as they can. Because a lot of my friends are saying, like, and I said it myself, where we've experienced so much trauma that now we have to reparent ourselves at a later
Yes.
age. And now all the things that I know, I can't not share it with my kids. Like,
Right.
culturally, Black women and in the Black community, we don't share. Like, we don't know our stories, we don't know our past, we don't know our history. We only know what is
Yes.
given to us. And so we can't even go past that. So when we think about our ancestors, a lot of us, we think about the ancestors that caused trauma. And we don't think about the well ancestors, those who came before all of that
Right.
stuff, that connection. That's what I want to be able to harness in and share to the next generation. So, I would just love to hear your opinion on that in terms of really connecting to your whole self and really embodying like all of it.
Oh, that's so good because that's where I'm at right now in my life. Oh, yes, like literally, that's where I'm at. But I want to start with when you started getting to this part of the conversation. You mentioned, and more so how it translated to me was going from unconditional love to conditional love, and then
Mhm.
you got to go back to unconditional love. And so that, like you said, with that self-love and that self-care and understanding it's loving all the parts of you. Like when you think about, okay, I don't like this. Like I've had this big thing with my midsection, and it's been a turmoil. It was. Let me say that. It was a turmoil. And although I was like, I want to do something about it, my husband was like, hey, you've had 4 kids. Come on. And then, you have women say, well, that's not. Then you have there's, group of women that's like, well, that's not an excuse. You should still be. But I'm like, I'm not an exerciser person. Like I beat myself up trying to exercise until I realized that's just not for me. Maybe I can find something. It's understanding like some things are just not for you, but also understanding there are so many ways to do different things. So like when you talked about the self-love and it's me, there's a lot of things that I see women do that I've just had to come to the conclusion. And that for me, that was self-love. Some things is just not for me and being okay with that. But I'm okay with stretching. I could do 1 or 2 exercise and be committed to that. But just like having a routine, I'm not a routine person. And yet society is like, you have to have a routine. You have to identify self-love for me was identifying what is true for me, what is healthy for me, what is right for me. And then, like you said, diving into that, getting back to that unconditional love for yourself, and then tapping in. Because I did the same thing. I had to contact my aunt to find out, like, what was my parents never talked about their childhood, and I just thought that was wild because I'm always telling my children, oh, what we want, whether it's good or bad, I'm always sharing stories. And I realized that neither one of my parents shared their past. And like I haven't, my dad's grandmother was amazing. I never got to know my mom's mom because they didn't really have a relationship. There was a lot of trauma that was there. So when I trying to better understand my mother, because I could see characteristics, I could see things that replicated my mother, and that unconditional love, I started disliking myself because I found that I was being just like her. And so I had to go back and ask my aunt, like, hey, what's the childhood? She couldn't even, she started crying hysterically and she couldn't even get it, where I had to just say it's okay. And I realized it was a lot of trauma. She did get enough out for me to realize, okay, I come from a lineage, which made a lot of things started clicking with my own self and my own emotional instability, my own emotion. I wasn't balanced. I was a crier. So I wasn't like a strong, my childhood is, I cried for every little thing. You could yell at me and I would cry. Like I didn't have to get whippings because just fussing at me. So I was very, very sensitive. But as I became a young woman and I started engaging in life, I got hard. It turned me into to a place where I really thought love was the devil. And when I got into that space, I knew I had to do something because I'm like, not realizing my weakness is my strength. And when I came into that realization of I'm a lover, I came here to love, but I'm allowing life to harden me. And so, like you said, going back and getting those stories of I didn't get that. Even just trying to ask my dad, the thing that they'll just tell you is the work, work, work. So it's interesting that you brought that up because I wanted to know the lineage or the part of my lineage that was thriving. And I'm like, at some point, somebody somewhere had to be thriving. My lineage can't just be one of trauma, but the stories that I got was that of trauma. So I realized my suppression, and it was like suppressed too, because those things were hidden because they couldn't talk about it. And I realized, like, even in my blood, my DNA had a suppression, and I was the golden child that came here to unpack all of that.
Right?
And so I realized that, okay, I came here just by gauging, listening to some of my cousins, my aunts. Sometimes my grandparents would tell stories. So just comparing that and seeing where I am and how I'm struggling, where I'm suppressing, but I can't suppress it. And the force, like it was being pushed up out of me to say something. And I'm like, okay, I realize I came here to break these generational patterns, habits, and behavior. And that hasn't been easy for me. It has been, I'm reaping the reward of it now, but I can't tell you how many times I wanted to quit. I wanted to give up. I wanted to run, but stepping back into that unconditional love has been the most amazing yet tedious journey ever. But when you realize that many of us, and I'm 48, so well, I'll be 48 in 3 weeks, but getting to, like you said, those 40s, that when I turned 40, that was a turning point for me. Like, it was just like I hit this turning point of I'm 40 and I haven't accomplished anything. I was 40 and hadn't accomplished anything. I hadn't completed anything. And in that realization, I awakened to myself and it's like, okay, let's sit and let's feel this out. Because I come from a family of suppressors. We suppressed everything. My mom suppressed. One of her, one of the things I realized is that some things can become so much that it's a challenge to unpack. And I realized watching my mom, I had to let go of some of my emotions for her because I had to like step into her shoes. I couldn't step into it fully, but just the understanding of there is some trauma that's just very challenging to unpack. And I had to stop judging her, especially when I heard the story. And I realized that I was being a mom that judged my mom. So now I'm trying to do all the things that my mom didn't do, and realizing and trying not to do those things, I was doing those things. And I realized, okay, I have to release how I feel about my mom and what she should have done. And you hear that I did my best. And when you're young and you're in your 20s, and I'm like, no, you didn't do your best. Well, your best wasn't good enough until you become a mom. And then my kids, I'm repeating, all my kids are grown. And I realized that I thought I did what was best. Like I thought I made the decisions only for them to get in their 20s and tell me, no, mom, some of the things you did affected me. And it was in that realization, like, oh, wow, this is what my mother meant. This is what she meant when she said I did the best that I could. But for me, the difference was when my kids came to me, I acknowledged, I didn't invalidate although for me, I'm like, but I did what I knew to do. But then you realize it could have been, now had I been a different person, yes, I could have done, if I was who I am now, I would have done things totally different, but I wasn't. And so, but just accepting and just apologizing to my children, because I made some decisions that I thought was best, but it affected them. And I apologized to them, and they accepted. I'm so thankful for my children because they accepted. And I told them, you'll understand when you become a parent. And my parents used to say that, like, you'll understand when you become a parent. And it's like, no, I don't understand because I'm just going to do things different. I'm going to do things. And you're like, I'm
You
going to
all
do
said
things
that.
different. And it's like, oh, wow. And so that allowed me to really remove judgment from my mother and like love her. Like I had a newfound love for her. Although we don't have a relationship, because I have boundaries. But at the same time, I have this love for her and I get it. like, I get it. But I'm with you. I'm like, where's all the amazing stories? But I'm realizing, I don't know if it's just so deeply buried that the trauma has consumed, the positive of our ancestors, but I don't have any stories to share with my children. So I try to create that's why I'm the new ancestor to
Mm.
create, or when I become that ancestor for my kids, my goal is to do the things where they can share that they're my grandbabies, my yaya, she did this and all these amazing stories. But I'm glad that you brought that up because I just think if we think back to many things, there's a lot of us that don't have positive stories, great, amazing stories to share.
Thank you so much. Everything you touched on, I resonated with every last bit of it. I always feel like that's where spirit brings people together. Our stories are
Yeah.
similar in that my relationship with my mom is there, how it is, but I had a moment, I think last year, where I finally accepted her and I touched on her inner child. We had like a deep
Mm.
conversation, and in that moment, because deep down, I was always that person like, people can change. People can't, I was
Yeah.
that person like, if you're telling me that I can't swim upstream, I'm gonna prove that you can swim upstream.
Yes.
And like my older siblings were like, Rashida, like good luck in trying to change her because it's not gonna happen. I'm like, you don't know, I don't believe
Yeah.
you. And then we had a deep conversation that was really around family because
Mm.
now all family doesn't talk. But I now look at my kids as they get older and they want those stories. They want family.
Oh, wow.
We have soul family that we connect with and we hang out and do those things, but they have their actual blood family. And my kids would always come back and be like, we love this, but like, where's our family? Like, where's our cousin?
Oh.
Where's our? And I was like, oof, that's deep. So
Hmm.
for holiday time, I was like, I think it's really important that like my kids get to know their cousins who they've seen, but not really. I like bring everybody together. And I always feel like, and it's never pressure on the matriarch to do so, but for some reason you feel like, well, it's under that one household and everybody comes together and like not having it. She was like, it ain't happening because, conflicts and everything like that.
Right.
And of course, we're in a different generation now. My kids are like, can we just put that in the past? Like, we're
Right.
together right now. They don't care about what happened. I'll never forget my daughter saying to me, like, and I would do the same thing. I would share stories with my kids about my own personal life. And then I remember my daughter coming back to me and saying, like, Mom, I hear your story, but that's not my life. I am not that. I am who I am, and this is the life I'm living. And I had to sit with that because as parents, and at least for my parents, it was always like, I don't want you to live the life that I had, or I don't want. And in the process of I don't,
Oh.
right, we're starting to live those type of lives. So it really came down to us having a deep conversation and me trying to like connect her and being like, I get it, like, Mom, like hurt people hurt people. She wasn't hearing it. She was like, I don't want to hear nothing you're saying. Hurt people don't, that's not true. And I was like, okay. And in that moment I saw her for the hurt child that
Hmm.
didn't get the love that she deserved, that didn't get to speak or express herself in the ways that she needed to. And in that moment I did what you did and I released. And I was like, okay, this is how it is. I need to then show her love in the ways that I can now and not try to show her love in a way of judgment or a way of like,
Yes.
you can change because whatever was given to her, even though she has never told me too much stories, it's always been stories of conflict, always. That in those moments, I was like, okay, however she was raised was tough. Whatever she raised, however she raised us, it was just a product of that, maybe a little
Right.
more watered down. And now
Uh-huh.
I'm in a time where I see my kids, especially my girls, and when we talk about like self-confidence and all of those things, there was moments where I would see in them, even though we would pour so much love into them and like build up their confidence, there was still pieces of them that was feeling like I'm not enough or I'm
Hmm.
not beautiful enough or whatever. It wasn't coming out. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I don't know if you've ever heard this, but as we know, like with women, we carry our eggs within us from
Yes.
infancy, right? Even within the womb. Know that
Right.
that energy gets transferred to those
Yes.
it just keeps coming out. And it was only moments where I would have to share with my mom, like, Mom, like, my daughter is still feeling like she is not confident, right? And she would,
Right.
like, a moment where she was like, oh, like, she is so beautiful. And I'm like, okay, well, you could call her and tell her that, right? Like, you saw a picture, just give her a text and be like, and she's like, nah, I don't want it to go to her head. I'm like, oh no. Like, in actuality, Mom, she needs that. We need to affirm in some way.
Right.
And only through that, it was just little pieces of stories where my mom was like, I never felt confident in myself until I was in my late 30s. So to carry all of that into adulthood, to become a mom and to still not feel like you're enough, to still not feel like you're beautiful enough, and then to transfer it over and it trickles down, to me, I'm like, there's a point where I started to wake up and say, like, oh, no, no, no. I need to know more. I need to go deeper into this because this, then, like what you said, is deep in the DNA. It's not just something that showed up out of nowhere. It's
Yes.
there for a long time. And like you said, you are the one that's got to break those generational cycles and to break that way of thinking and the way how we care for ourselves, how we love on ourselves, and how we love on others is very, very important now in these times, especially with social media, like, especially with all of what we see and what keeps bombarding the next generation. I think it's really important right now for so many of us to pay attention to that because the truth is we get distracted very easily to the point
Yes.
where we almost forget oh, our kids are fine or oh, our kids are okay. But like you said, there's so many out there, and myself included have had thoughts of unaliving myself. So many of us have those thoughts, and whatever keeps us around, which we know is creator, is holding us here because we have
Yeah.
a bigger purpose. It's just that matter of becoming whole with ourselves.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing all of that. I really appreciate that. This is a great conversation.
Absolutely. It's just amazing how when you start conversing with each other, how a lot of our stories are similar. And it's interesting that you said you talk to your siblings about change. And I remember crying out to God and I was like, but you're God. You can change her. But the messages I was getting was to release her. And I
Mm,
didn't understand that. And it was like she can't give you what you're wanting as a mom. Like she's not even giving it to herself, so how can she give it to you? And it took me 4 years, literally, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And the more that I would try to hold on, and I'm like, but you're God, you can change her. And I remember hearing, no, I can't go against her free will. And I was like, oh. And that's when I started learning a lot of things that I didn't know. Cause I'm like, you allowed her to give birth to me. Like this doesn't make sense. And mind you, I have children of my own. And I'm like, I just don't understand this because, I would never do this. That's that judgment. I would never do this to my children. And, I loved on my kids. I expressed, I love you. I grew up. I was just sharing this with a friend of mine that I grew up. I never heard I love you. I didn't grow up with hugs. I didn't
yeah.
grow up with I love you. So I didn't know what that was. And my sister, oldest sister, was going through something. And my mom at 40, my sister was 40 something, when my mom said, I love you. And my sister was like, I said, well, what did you say? And she was like, I couldn't say anything. And I was like, you couldn't say? She was like, it shocked me because I've never heard it. So I didn't know if I was being pranked. And it's interesting. Like, she was like, I didn't know she didn't know she was being pranked, but she didn't know what to say. And I just thought that was interesting because when you don't grow up a certain way, and like I tell my children, and then I watch my children, my son has a child, and he has a son, and just watching him, it makes me emotional how he loves on him, and he loves on him more than I loved on them. So
Mm.
to see that, and it's like I did something right. I like all of what I've gone through to clear out these generational patterns, habits, and behavior. Watching my children, it's one of the most amazing things. And I feel like I want to say this because so many women are trying, to be the best mom, trying to be the best wife. And then they step up they get in this journey and they wonder because It feels like it's taken forever for things to change or for you to change or for you to see the results. And, I just want to encourage every woman that's in it because you want to give up. You have those moments where you're wondering, is this even working? Will this? Yes, you got to see it through. You got to see, you cannot, if you give up on yourself, you won't see it. And one of the things that kept me going, that if I don't clear it out and I know that I have the strength to do it, then my children will have to do it. And I'm like, there's just some things, you love your children so much and you don't want them to go through. So I'm like, if I can do it, this was my statement. If I can do it, if Spirit, if you're telling me I have the ability to do it and I can do it, I'm gonna do it so that my children, that's less that they have to do. Because I'm watching them having to walk out and I have to remind them, like, hey, I defeated that. Just walk it out. Just walk. All you have to do is walk it out because I've defeated that. Just walk it out. You understand, when you're healing and you're doing things, there's still some things your children still have to walk out on their own. But it's not as hard as it is for those of us that's the initiator. And many of us came here and it's so hard for us because nobody in our lineage has done what we're doing. Some of them, I will say, not all of us. There are some that some of our parents have done, but I come from a lineage where none of my siblings did. My mother didn't do anything. My aunts watching them. And so my generation is the generation that's the initiator. So to watch my kids not to have to go through some things and I can see it, it is one of the most amazing things because I'm bearing that burden. Like I'm alchemizing it and I have the ability and the knowledge and the wisdom to do it. So why not? It hasn't been easy, but it's so worth it. That's what I want to say. It's absolutely worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
Thank you for sharing that. I love what you just said because it's true. When we think about it as moms, and if you've ever had a family or women in your life that have never had the opportunity to fully express themselves in their wholeness, almost feels like, for me, I'm like, I have to do it. I'm not just doing it for myself.
Yes,
Do it,
yes,
I'm unlocking it for every other woman in my family who didn't get the opportunity to do it.
yes.
That's that breaking of the cycle. When we're unlocking those chains, it's so that they can become their wholeness. I'm getting goosebumps as I say it, but like it's that wholeness of spirit. It's almost like they all come together and they're like, okay, like,
Yes, that oneness.
right? Like, how amplified can that be every time? That is something that sits with me. That's why I do these podcasts. That's why I continue to do this.
And
I show it up.
it starts with, for me, just to get me on the journey. It started with I wanted to do this for my children. And then it was like, okay, no, I need to do this for myself. And then it goes into, okay, I'm doing it for myself, which means I'm doing it for my children. And I think about my grandchildren and my great grandchildren and my great great grandchildren. And then it turns in, no, I'm doing it for women too. Watching it just like come back full circle. So I was able to like journey through my lineage and the children that's going to come through my children and their children. And then it circled back to all of the women that think that this can't be done. And I got into that space of, I'm doing this because I want to show women. Like I got into the space of, I want to show other women this can be done. And when I got into that space, it really motivated me because I think about so many women that feels like there is no way out. Like this is just it. Like getting in this space of, no, there's so much more. You just have to keep going. It feels like there isn't any more until you start. That starting point of, we talked about that earlier. It starts like you have no idea, just the acknowledgement and you allowing yourself to free yourself into saying, something's not right. Like I need that right there is the beginning. It's the beginning of everything. That acknowledgement, breaking, allowing yourself to come out of that shell, that entrap, because you feel trapped inside. Coming out of that, just speaking it, using your voice to say it. You may not know, you may not even want to take act. Just saying it though is the initiator. It's the spark. that lights the fire.
Gosh, thank you. I hope one day that we can do these things in person because I love hugs. I'll be honest, like
I
what
know,
I said
right? Me
before,
too.
I never used to get hugged as a child, really, like saying I love you. The only time I started to really do that is after I had kids, right? And
Yes, me too.
honest, like, so my partner is half white, half indigenous, but like white people hug. They say they love you. They're very
Yes,
like
yes.
so it's something that I had to learn over time that like, oh, I wasn't doing that. My kids would remind me like, mom, like hugs, like they're very huggy and all that stuff. And so I've learned to become that way and it feels great because like these connections, I'm very honored that you came on here. This conversation could have happened unrecorded and we could have had a great time.
Yes, thank you for having me. Like, I appreciate being able to express and share these things. I think our conversation is something that's truly needed.
Mm,
It's truly needed where others need to hear. Like, you're not alone. We are not alone. We think we're alone, and just us, because we haven't had the conversation, we haven't talked about the things that we're talking about. And to know I'm sharing my story and yours is similar, and you're sharing things that's similar to my story, and it's just amazing how we're walking around here thinking we're all strangers, but we're really not strangers.
right? Like
Similar stories.
that is honestly why I started to do this because prior to even having a podcast, I started to connect with women probably right after I had my second child and I started to connect with women who had similar stories and I thought, wow, like this helps, especially if you've never grown up in spaces where and in your own family dynamic where you had a space where you felt like you could express yourself, felt like you belong. And if you are like an empath or you're that one, I don't want to call it the golden child, but the one that it was sent here to do a much bigger project than we thought, those are the people that really do feel the most alone, right?
Yes,
Those
yes.
are people who don't know how to express because like what you said prior, it's like, oh, am I going crazy? Like what's wrong with me? Those type of things start to come up in our head. And
But we
from
also don't have anybody to go to either. So it's kind of
exactly.
like we're doing something that we don't really have anybody to go to, like within our physical vicinity. I mean, we can go online and research, but we don't have that physical connection where I could call my mom and be like, hey, I'm going through XYZ and experience it. I just had a conversation with my mother-in-law because, when you hit a certain age, you're going through the premenopause. And we were having this conversation, and I'm like, hey, how come y'all didn't warn us about this? Because it wasn't talked about. It's like a lot of things that hasn't been talked about. Like now I start sharing it with my kids. When you get a certain age, there are certain things that's going to start happening. And she couldn't even answer. She couldn't answer. I just found it interesting. Like, I don't even think that they even realized because they're going off of what their parents did. It was never talked about with their parents. So I just think it's interesting and that we are the voice. I just feel like our generation is the voice. We're speaking things that we're doing things that just wasn't done and it's catching like wildfire and I'm loving it. Like I'm loving that we're having all of these uncomfortable
Mm,
conversations with each other. And I'm also loving the fact that I get to engage with other women and what you think is only in one culture, until you start talking to other women, you will realize that there's the same things going on in other cultures. And it's just mind blowing because I'm having friends conversation with my friends and I'm like, oh, I thought that was only in my culture. Like the you make your bed hard, you lie in it. I thought that
yeah.
was just with our culture, but I have an Italian friend and she was like, oh no, my mom, she raised us that way. There's just certain sayings
Mm.
that's in other cultures too. And I'm like, we're just all the same, literally, and just to a degree, especially dealing with things. I just feel like we have more things in common than we think we do.
Mm. That's exactly, I truly do believe that. Because at the end of the day, we are literally all the same people.
Yes.
We are the same. We are human beings. Human is the physical and the being is our
Yes.
soul. That's our spirit, right?
Yes.
Actuality, we are more common than we realize. But, society has its way of making us separate ourselves in some way. But I always now believe that, like, when they're trying to separate, it's just separating from our own selves. And in that,
Yes.
the separating from our own selves, we separate from others, right?
Every-
Right? When you keep people
oh,
at a distance, then when it comes time for collective, can you imagine? I love getting together with my friends, especially when we talk about this stuff, because that collective energy is so potent.
it is. It is. I got goosebumps. Yes, my gosh. Because I'm so into unity and unifying, and it's the power of that. I just think people don't realize the power of unifying. It is, but like even if we start in small groups, it can take off like wildfire. But I am so with you on that, the power of that.
Thank you once again, Dr.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, this will not be the last time that we have
Oh,
these
absolutely not. No, there's more conversations we need to have.
How can we find you? Please tell. I want you to plug everything because we have people from all over the world that can connect with you however which way they want to. So please share that. And then, of course, as you know, I always put the links down below so people can click the link and find you right away.
Okay, well, I'm on YouTube as Dr. Yano Kelly. I am also on Instagram as Dr. Yano Kelly. And you can also find me on TikTok, which is my bigger platform. And that is Dr. Yano Kelly as well. I try to keep everything the same. I also have my own podcast called the Soul Doctor Podcast. You can find that on Apple, Spotify, and I'll be inviting you to that podcast as well.
I appreciate it.
Those are the platforms that you can find me on for now. I'm looking forward though to get from behind the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that one. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Kelly. This is the Ultimate Human Experience Podcast. We are out. Peace.